Friday Junior, folks. Thank you all for joining. It's basically the weekend, essentially. Welcome, Derry Bennett. Heat, how's it going? Almost catnip time. That's true. 2 minutes. 2 minutes to catnip time for you, I guess. All right, folks. We got a short stream today. Short and sweet, to the point. Folks, let's get started. Biden stays in the race. You think so? What was I going to say? Oh, yes, the usual disclosures, folks. If you want to keep supporting the channel, there are many different ways. I appreciate the support. Keep liking the stream on the YouTube. Subscribe. 255 of you have done so. Follow us here on Twitch. Consider checking out the merch store, ! Merch. Join the Discord, folks. Tomorrow, 12 p.m. noon Eastern time, there will be a free showing. Look at that. Today I gotta go pick up mom and dad Truth from the airport, so that means the stream unfortunately is gonna end up being very short today. But let's get started because there's lots of important stuff to talk about and not enough time. Let's do it.
As much as Biden's team desperately wants to shut down the conversation about replacing him, calls for him to step aside are only going to continue to grow and get even louder, especially now that we're getting more post-debate polls. And let me tell you, these polls spell disaster for Joe Biden. Now, one of the main arguments that his team has been making thus far is that potential replacements like Harris, Newsom, or Whitmer, they're all polling worse than Biden. So if you replace him with one of them, then Democrats will actually fare worse against Trump in November. And that's a fair argument to make with the data that they have. Now, another argument that they're making is pretty interesting because they're saying, it's not like the debate was that disastrous because our own internal polling shows that we're still losing. So we were losing before the debate, we're still losing afterwards. So the debate must have not had that big of an impact. I'm not joking about this. As New York Magazine's Olivia.
That's amazing. Wow, phenomenal. That's man, the amount of confidence I have right now is through the roof, huh? So much has happened around this. Yep. Yeah, flawless logic indeed. I'm blown away.
And as he explains via Twitter,
like, hey, listen, folks, don't worry, okay? Listen, don't worry, okay? The debate wasn't that bad, okay? We were already losing, so you can't blame the debate.
The Biden campaign is releasing information about their internal polling post-debate, which shows Biden losing as a means of arguing that the debate didn't hurt him too much since he was also losing before the debate. She adds, an unorthodox strategy to say the least.
That's one way of putting it, I guess. You do have to laugh at this. Because, man, oh, man.
Yeah, I'll say. Okay. I mean, if that's your best argument, then it really demonstrates how unserious you are about beating Trump. At this point, you're only in this for your own ego. So that's kind of the two main arguments that his team is making. Look, other candidates poll worse, and also our polling didn't change that much. But things are changing now. So a post-debate poll from CNN finds that Kamala Harris is officially faring better against Donald Trump than Joe Biden in a hypothetical matchup. Now, it's still an uphill battle for her, but this poll lends credence to the widespread assumption that replacing Biden gives Democrats a better shot against Trump in November. Now, this is a very big deal because it's undercutting the Biden team's core argument here. So this is significant. Now, it gets so much worse for Biden because post-debate internal polling from the Democratic Party leaked, and it is so bad that this poll indicates that if Biden stays in the race, we're looking at the prospect of a Trump landslide in November. So I'm going to read you the first paragraph from Puck News. They got the report, they got the scoop, and they kind of summarized the poll's findings, and it's pretty bleak. Quote, a confidential polling memo circulating among anxious Democrats is confirming some of their worst fears. President Joe Biden's support has started to tumble in key electoral battlegrounds in the wake of his disastrous debate performance in Atlanta, and Biden's diminished standing is now putting previously non-competitive states like New Hampshire, Virginia, and New Mexico in play for Donald Trump. What's more, Biden has taken such a reputational hit that he is polling behind other alternative Democratic candidates, including Kamala Harris and Gretchen Whitmer in hypothetical one-on-one matchups against Trump. So here's the graph. Let's first look at Biden's pre- and post-debate numbers. So if you look at the middle column titled...
Honestly, like... the only viable alternative would be the vice president, right? That's basically it. Just to be honest, I'm considering not celebrating with family for the 4th, as written as celebrating 247 years of independence before SCOTUS killed America and reinstated kingship and emperors. Yep. I don't blame you, footlong. Loser, loser, chicken loser. Yeah.
Pre-debate margin, you can see that he was behind Donald Trump in every single swing state. Now, when you move to the
Harris and Pritzker
post-debate column on the
I would actually accept that more of a I would actually be a little bit more confident, or I would actually be a little bit I would be more inclined to vote for a ballot that looks like that than the current ballot.
left, you see that he is hemorrhaging support even more in swing states that he was already losing. Like, this is disastrous. He is truly in free fall since this debate. Now, on top of that, he's also been damaged in states that he was leading in, and he's polling within the margin of error in Colorado. So this is really the worst case scenario for Biden. But the silver lining, if we go to graph 2, is that other Democrats aren't doing as poorly. This poll confirms CNN's findings that Harris is slightly stronger against Trump than Biden. Newsom polls even better, and Whitmer and Buttigieg are particularly strong against Donald Trump. Now, they also struggle in certain states. That's true. But keep in mind that this poll was conducted before they've even been able to make their case or campaign at all. So this is a really big deal. Now, I just want to be clear. I'm not saying that replacing Biden isn't risky, because of course it is. And whoever Democrats replace him with, if that happens, could still lose to Donald Trump.
Right.
When you have these woke revolutions,
all of them. Yeah, so to be honest, like, literally, I think the only play that they have is to run Harris on a VP. I'm not going after all, but I just don't like crowds and noises. Fair enough.
Either way, you're rolling the dice. You don't know what's going to happen because nobody has a crystal ball except Kyle Kulinski. But polls confirm that it is so much more risky to keep rolling with Biden after that debate. And to be clear, it wasn't just one bad debate. People were already concerned about his cognitive ability. But that debate demonstrated how bad he's gotten. Now, what's really interesting is how Republicans are responding, because they're actually concerned about the prospect of Democrats replacing Biden, because they also think that would improve the Democratic Party's chances of winning in November. Fox News reports, quote, as questions continue to mount about President Biden's fitness for office, some House Republicans are privately concerned that replacing him at the top of the ticket could result in the GOP losing the White House in November. With a potentially younger and more popular replacement, the GOP lawmakers said, it became a tougher race. It changes everything. It's just a completely unknown wild card right now, the GOP lawmakers said. Now, the article goes on to explain that Republicans are worried that a new candidate could energize the Democratic Party's base and increase turnout, which would be bad for Donald Trump. Now, it's frustrating to me to know that Republicans seemingly understand what Democrats need to do to win more than Democrats. It's always about turnout. It's always about energizing your base. Why can't Democrats understand that? Now, you may be thinking, well,
That's true. Yeah, it was not a pun. Was it a play on words? Yeah, that's the term. I would vote for just about anyone other than Trump with not sarcasm. I would even vote for the mayor of Idlewood, California before Trump.
Republicans, they're fundamentally dishonest. So maybe they're trying to plant this article to goad Democrats into doing something really stupid like replacing Biden because they're playing 4D chess and they think this will actually help Trump. And if that were true, they wouldn't be trying to literally keep Biden on the ballot so Democrats are stuck with him. In fact, the Heritage Foundation, the leading organization behind Project 2025, is going to mount legal challenges against Democrats in 3 swing states to try to force Democrats to keep Biden on the ballot. Why? Because they know that Trump has the best chance of winning against Joe Biden. And if the DNC really does move up his nomination in order to lock him in place, they are effectively doing the Republican Party's bidding for them. Now, I think that these polls, they have to be a wake-up call for a lot of elected Democrats. I don't necessarily know if they're a wake-up call per se. I think it just confirms what they're already saying.
Folks, we're effed, man. I don't want to be that guy, but I don't want to be that guy, but it really does feel that way, right? A-Bond, welcome. I feel like any route ends in Trump winning, even if he loses. Well, given these last couple of Supreme Court decisions, it certainly feels that way. But yeah.
Saying or what they're already thinking but won't say publicly, right? But most of them, they're probably not going to say anything publicly until they see even more polls confirming that an alternative would indeed do better against Donald Trump. But if we get even more evidence that Biden is weak to Trump, more polls come out showing the same thing, they will have an obligation to call on Biden to drop out if they actually care about saving democracy. Now, some Democrats, they've already had enough. They've seen enough, and they've come to the conclusion that this can no longer go on. Now, I say this because the first elected Democrat, Lloyd Doggett of Texas, has publicly called on Biden to drop out. Per Politico, he says, quote, "Instead of reassuring voters, the president failed to effectively defend his many accomplishments and expose Trump's many lies during the debate. Too much is at stake to risk a Trump victory. President Biden saved our democracy by delivering us from Trump in 2020. He must not deliver us to Trump in 2024. He continues, "I am hopeful that he will make the painful and difficult decision to withdraw. I respectfully call on him to do so." Now, it's just one Democrat, but that's a really big deal. The real question now is whether or not this is going to start a trend. Will there be a domino effect? Sometimes it just takes one person to speak up and then other people find the courage to do the same. How many Democrats, though, are willing to do what Lloyd Doggett is doing? How many of them are willing to...
Just, honestly, I don't know if it matters. It has to be the right people. Does that make sense? Better than the odds now, yeah. You won't lose gracefully, that's for sure, but I doubt that's going to be the outcome. Yeah, I mean, if Biden steps down, I think, like, it is risky to run somebody else, but I kind of see the writing on the wall by continuing
to put their necks on the line and call on Biden to drop out publicly. You know, I would hope that most would, since democracy is at stake. But we're dealing with self-serving politicians who know that doing this could blow up in their faces if they publicly call on Biden to withdraw and he doesn't. You don't want to get on the bad side of a potential president or the leader of the Democratic Party, because that could spell doom for your career if you have higher ambitions. So they don't want to make...
I keep thinking they could win with Bernie, but they'd never run him. Progressives would be over the moon, and Blue Dog Dems would have to fall in line. Yeah, I saw a meme ticket with Bernie and Kamala Harris.
The wrong calculation here. But what matters more, your career or democracy? Like, this is an actual question that they have to grapple with. But aside from elected Democrats, there are prominent people within Democratic Party circles that are saying enough is enough. And they're saying that publicly. For example, former Obama HUD Secretary Julian Castro has called on Biden to withdraw. This is huge. Also, Democratic strategist James Carville is calling on Biden to withdraw. I don't personally care what James Carville has to say, but a lot of Democrats for some reason still respect him, and right here he's correct, so credit to him. So this is a big deal. Former House Democrat Tim Ryan wrote an op-ed in Newsweek calling on Democrats to replace Biden with Harris. Former DNC Vice Chair R.T. Ryback is calling on Biden to be pushed to drop out, and even says that elected Democrats privately already want him to withdraw, but they don't want to say that publicly because they fear retribution. Also, Democratic Senator Peter Walsh, he's not explicitly saying that Biden should withdraw, but he is criticizing Biden's team's dismissive response to people that are concerned about his chances, and he condemned their use of the term bedwetting because it just kind of seems like they're not taking the threat of Trump seriously.
Bernie isn't even that scary, hasn't much of a spine against the corporate Dems. Yep. But even with all the hate and attacks by Republicans, now I never considered owning a gun because I felt it was still safe enough. But at this point, after SCOTUS stuff, I'm considering buying a few and stocking ammo. Right. I don't blame the attitude. I don't blame why you feel that way. And I think I've got a story that we'll get into for that. That's your right, but know the dangers of having a weapon in your home. Yes, absolutely, 100%. Understand what that is. Everyone they put up as a candidate would just do business as usual, like Biden. Yeah, that may end up being the case. Yes,
As for Nancy Pelosi, she's not calling on Biden to withdraw either, but she did tell MSNBC's Andrea Mitchell, quote, "I think it's a legitimate question to say, is this an episode or is this a condition?" Which is so significant coming from her. So it kind of feels like the dam is about to burst, where you have people who aren't necessarily ready to call on him to withdraw saying, yeah, there are legitimate concerns here. Now, there's also James Clyburn, who has been probably one of the most, if not the most dishonest Democrats when it comes to this conversation. He initially claimed on MSNBC that Biden's bad debate performance was due to his stutter, which is such bullshit. And it's honestly insulting that he thinks his own base is stupid enough to believe that lie. But even he is now starting to change his tune a little bit, because the conversation, like this talk, it's not going to go away because people are genuinely concerned that sticking with Biden could lead to a Trump victory. Now, James Clyburn, I want to share a clip from MSNBC because he's asked about the prospect of Biden being replaced and Kamala Harris being circumvented. Now, pay close attention to what he says here, because what he says, even though it seems
Welcome to Raven. My Chud bro-in-law is trying to train me ASAP on his collection. They think something is going down. Yeah, I've been paying attention, and they certainly feel that way. If you have a child or teen in your household, please don't have a gun or prone to depression. I have known 70 people have died by their own choice. Jeez. I grew up in the South, so know the dangers. Also, the fact that I don't have kids because I don't condone torture and bringing up kids since Trump shows to be a bad direction. My own opinion, nothing against others. Well, at least you don't. At least you don't have that variable, because man, having kids and having firearms. My dad thought he kept a good handle on the firearm that was in the house when I was a child, and I mean a very young child. And he thought he had everything locked up, and he thought it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I still found the gun. I still somehow found a way to it, by the way, and he got rid of it. The moment, the second I touched the firearm, I found it, and I touched the firearm, he got rid of it. That was the last time he ever had a gun. Ever, period, full stop. Because, yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. 5-year-old me was able to find it, and, obviously, granted, it was locked, but it doesn't matter. I still got my hands on it. Kids get into everything. Kids, literally, it doesn't matter how good you think you have it hidden. It doesn't matter how good you think you have it positioned. Kids get into literally everything. So definitely good that you don't have that. Good that you don't have that variable to deal with. I would have a gun and safe, disassembled ammo and firing pin and mechanism in a separate safe. Yeah, you would have to do something to the point where it literally can't. It physically. Like it would be physically impossible for it to do anything in that manner. He did not. He had it hidden. He had it in a padlock kind of deal, but I still got my hands on it as a kid. He really knew he messed up. Oh yeah, that's the last time. That was a very, 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 very long time ago, and no, none of that anymore. I had the impression that you had a pretty good dad. Yeah. Good thing little ADT is still with us. Yes. I will have to tell a story from my childhood later on Discord. Yeah. And the thing is, like, it's funny because, like, we were playing with my best friend, and that's how it came up. Yeah, in an alternate universe, though. Yeah, no, it's definitely, you're correct, the Raven. I completely understand what you're saying, and I completely see what you're saying, Heat. I always think of that. Yep. What if he didn't have it locked? I mean, I didn't know if it was loaded. I didn't know what kind of gun because I can't remember. I was like a tiny kid. Um, I was a tiny kid. I don't know what kind of weapon it was. I don't know what kind of. I don't know if it was even loaded. If it even had ammunition inside. If it was even in a safety position. I don't know. I had no. I still don't remember what exactly that firearm was. Because I was so little. And remember, kids who aren't taught, kids who aren't taught, um, don't understand that it's a toy. You get what I'm saying? It's always interesting dancing with death. Yeah, no, not to me. I'm good, thank you.
Inconspicuous and innocuous. It's really
people in my rural town CO would go shooting in their backyard and shoot beyond the boundaries of the yard. Sheesh. That's so irresponsible.
Significance.
How would you feel if they worked around and tried to go around Kamala Harris because of her lack of high poll numbers and popularity and broadly based? Do you think it's hers to have if it is not his?
I will support her if he were to step aside. But I want to support her going forward at sometime in the future. I want this ticket to continue to be Biden-Harris, and then we'll see what happens after the next election. No, this party should not in any way do anything to work around Ms. Harris. We should do everything we can to bolster her, whether it's in second place or at the top of the ticket.
So he's pretty clear about the fact that he doesn't think Biden should withdraw. But having said that, though, if Biden did hypothetically choose to withdraw and Kamala Harris suddenly became the new nominee, he would fall in line and support her. And here's the thing. That goes without saying. All Democrats would fall in line and support the Democratic Party nominee. They would support whoever was at the top of the ticket because that's what elected Democrats are going to do. But I think that in terms of who...
I swear it was some serious death on my shoulder shit. Sheesh. Jeez, Apon. Yeah, she's first in line. I agree.
Who should replace Biden? Just personally speaking, Kamala Harris does make the most sense from a small d Democratic perspective because she already won an election. She clinched the nomination with Joe Biden. She's already on the ticket. So her being elevated to the top of the ticket just kind of feels like the natural progression, even though she's not my first choice. You know, it would just feel gross to me and undemocratic if party leaders chose to dispose of her behind closed doors for someone else when voters already casted millions of votes for her. And I say that even acknowledging the fact that the Democratic Party didn't even hold a real primary process this time. You know, states like Florida straight up just canceled their primaries. So they didn't actually give voters a real option. But still, the point that she's the logical Democratic choice is inarguable. I think that pairing her with a really strong, likable VP like Whitmer or Andy Bashir would be really, really important and necessary. But I do think that elevating Harris is really the only fair choice. We're all K-Hive in 2024, baby. But here's one problem with all of this. Biden's inner circle is shielding him from all of this really important information that we're all now privy to. And I say this because a new report in Politico discusses how Democrats are growing increasingly frustrated with Biden's inner circle because of how insular they are. Quote, inside the White House, Biden's growing limitations were becoming apparent long before his meltdown in last week's debate, with the senior team's management of the president growing more strictly controlled as his term has gone on. During meetings with aides who are putting together formal briefings they'll deliver to Biden, some senior officials have at times gone to great lengths to curate the information being presented in an effort to avoid provoking a negative reaction. And they go on to say that Biden can be unpleasant, so they're disinclined to show him something that might make him mad. So there's really an open question. Are they even going to show him the negative polling? Is he even going to be challenged by anyone in his inner circle at this point, since they've already decided that he should keep running? It just feels like that's increasingly unlikely, which is really dangerous. You know.
So let me stop this right here because I think that's a perfect setup for this video. Because I think this one is the more pertinent video because we've got very limited time. And I think this one, now that we understand the setup behind this, the people that are calling for him to step down, the polls that are showing that the only logical thing to do right now is to put somebody else in. Okay, we got that. I like looking at David's face anyway. We got that set up. So now we have this. So it's reverse Trump. Instead of aides telling the info, trying to stop from doing something stupid, it's the aide not telling him. Right. Harris's record as prosecutor made me not support her originally, not feeling her still. I don't disagree. But man, somehow she is like a percentage point better than Biden. I know. Amazing times we're living in.
Wow.
Wow.
This is some breaking news.
Amazing.
President Joe Biden is considering his future in the race. This is from a report in the New York Times. This is the first time that he has publicly acknowledged, or I should say a report has publicly acknowledged that he is considering his future. So stories like this don't leak for no reason. This was leaked to it's my opinion that this was leaked to the press as an idea to float out there and get people sort of ready for the possibility of Biden not being the candidate. So a report here from New York Times, this broke about 20 minutes ago. Biden told Ally that he is weighing whether to continue in the race. The president's conversation is the first indication that he is seriously considering whether he can recover after a devastating performance on the debate stage in Atlanta on Thursday. So the next few days are going to be the deciding factor for him, according to this ally. So this report broke by Katie Rogers here. Biden knows that he may not be able to salvage his candidacy. This is also
Mike from PA mentioned Sean Fain as VP. No, that's not gonna happen. Sean Fain is doing the Lord's work, organizing labor on the ground. Personally, I like Sean Fain doing what Sean Fain is doing. He's currently doing the Lord's work. Personally, I think he should just continue.
The first time that there's any public acknowledgement that Biden is aware of his faults. So the next few days, including an interview scheduled for Friday with George Stephanopoulos of ABC News and campaign stops in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, must go well in order for him to decide to continue. Now, I fully expect for them to go well because I'm sure this interview was scheduled at a time that works for him. These campaign stops at a time that works for him. Again, I did discussed a report from Axios from a couple days ago where people within the White House are aware that there are two different Joe Bidens, essentially, where he is more alert and aware from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And apart from those times, he is, 4 p.m. onward or before 10 a.m., he is an elderly man because that's what he is. You'd expect a guy who travels all across the country, who goes to different countries, who gives all these, speeches. You'd expect anybody doing all that at that age to be exhausted, which may go to why they're not right for the job, at least when it comes to campaigning, which is very important if you hope to avoid a Trump presidency. So his ally goes on to say here, he knows if he has two more events like that, speaking about the debate, we're in a different place. So this is the first time there's any acknowledgement of this happening. A top advisor to Biden who spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss the situation said the president was, quote, well aware of the political challenge he faces. So finally, there's some actual acknowledgement that Biden knows he's not the greatest.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how hard the aides try to shield the information, man. It's only a matter of time, right? What I was saying yesterday is whether or not the reality sinks in quick enough. Does that make sense?
This is a huge step in the right direction. Again, if you are concerned about Trump winning the election, which you should be if Biden is the candidate.
Excellent point. He's needed at the union level, not easily replaced in that venue. Yeah, exactly. exactly. Personally, of course, Sean Fain, I would imagine would do amazing for labor if he were to be elevated to a political position. But like, man, he's done such a good job at organizing labor that just let him keep doing what he's doing.
This gets to some information here from Data for Progress, and I'll get some clips as well from Democratic politicians that are also, even before that report, openly discussing the idea that Biden may not be the candidate. And so Data for Progress here, this is a recent poll. This is after the debate. If the election were being held tomorrow and these were the candidates, who would you vote for? So between Biden and Kamala Harris. So Harris matches Biden in most areas or exceeds him. So honest, they're the same. Has plans to solve our country's problems. Biden is winning there because he is the candidate and is the one with the plans right now. People have not seen Kamala Harris or her ideas, so of course she'd be losing in this category, but still only by a couple points. Fit to run the country, big numbers there for Kamala Harris over Joe Biden, and strong, again, bigger number for Harris over Joe Biden. This gets to the various candidates. If the election were held tomorrow and these were the
I can't deal with that crushing gut punch if Hillary would be Biden's replacement. No, I don't think so. Please, God, no. Please, no. No.
Candidates, who would you vote for? Now, the way this poll is structured, it appears, Biden's doing the best. But if you actually look at the numbers, comparing Biden's numbers to Trump's numbers, it's a gap of 3. No one else here has a greater gap than 3. In fact, Whitmer, I think, has the best number. There's only a gap of 2 between her and Trump. And there's a lot of space in the middle here to grow for a lot of these candidates that people don't know a lot of, like Pritzker, Shapiro, Whitmer. I don't think Klobuchar has much room to grow, but most of these other ones, I think, do. And Harris as well. You know, there hasn't been, and the reason I keep talking about Harris is we're going to get to why it makes the most sense for her to take over, not necessarily because of her numbers, though I think she still would do better than Biden, but because of campaign finance laws and just the fact that she's the vice president. But Harris, I think, has room to grow here as well because, again, she has not been in front of the cameras the same way that Joe Biden has. So this gets to the American Prospect. Piece from David Dane here from yesterday. Campaign finance laws give Harris big boost in Biden dropout scenario. If Biden were to withdraw his candidacy, only Kamala Harris could seamlessly use funds raised by the Biden-Harris campaign committee. This is a huge issue.
Yeah, like, just to be clear, this isn't like a fervent endorsement of Kamala Harris, right? But the reality is she would be the natural second, the natural follow-up in command, right? She's literally the vice president. And none of these people, would even be close to, to be able to be in that position. Logically, I think that it makes sense, even though I'm not Kamala Harris's biggest fan. But she's like, man, and we're talking like decimal points. But nonetheless, at this point in time, I would vote for a Harris ticket than I would for a Biden ticket. It was presumably how it would have gone if he hadn't run for a second term. People voted with this in mind. Yeah, good point.
Or I should say a huge benefit for the idea of Harris taking over, because the Biden campaign committee has raised hundreds of millions of dollars for the election, which has already invested in staff and booked airtime across the country. So he goes on to explain how, there could be some workarounds. The money could be moved to a PAC, for example, but then the PAC would not be able to communicate with the campaign. And there's also higher ad rates for a PAC compared to a campaign. So there are all these barriers if someone else is the candidate. But if it's Kamala Harris, then all of that same money can be seamlessly moved to the Kamala Harris campaign and used in the same way it's being used right now, boosting the idea of Kamala Harris being the one to take over. I also saw this. This came just minutes before the report in the New York Times. Job opportunity. The Biden for President campaign seeks a social media platform.
I thought this was very strange because this post actually came up on my Twitter feed as well. Yeah.
Platform's strategist to write daily content for Kamala Harris and expand the vice president's voice online. Now, this may have happened anyways because, again, there is an election coming up, so they may want to boost her voice regardless. But interesting timing for this to come up now. So I want to share this clip from CNN. To me, this idea is wild, and I don't see it happening, but it's worth sharing.
But other party leaders we talked to are already floating the idea of opening it up to all contenders, having, let's call it a 5-week speed dating primary, maybe having debates between now and the convention, and then leaving it up to the convention. Their number one concern, who can beat Donald Trump, Anderson?
A speed dating primary. I really don't think this is going to happen. This sounds too pie in the sky, too insane. There's so little time, and this idea.
Kamala Hunter 2024. Yeah, no, this is not going to happen. This is absurd. This is absurd. There's not enough time for people to have. This is just like not a thing that can happen at this point.
Is too monumental. Politics doesn't work like this. It takes time and lots of money in this case for sure to pull something like this off. What would you do? A primary again in every state? Like there's no time. I don't see this happening. I think it's a lot more likely, again, if Biden were to drop out, a lot more likely that Kamala Harris simply takes over because that would be the cleanest way to do it. It would make the most sense as she is the vice president. I'm not saying she's even the best candidate, but I think she would do better than Trump, or especially do better than Biden. And that just
right. She would do better than Biden because that's what we're up against, right?
Makes the most sense. And it's also sort of what is being hinted at here by a lot of Democratic politicians, including Clyburn, who look at how he defends Kamala Harris here.
How would you feel?
Now, less criminality. What if they presented Joe Biden to replace him? That's horrifying, but other women have replaced husbands in power. No, I don't think she would do it.
If there is a decision for him to step down, if he decides that, and he has to decide that, or
I think we saw us
to work around
Kamala Harris of working around her would be ridiculous. No, you can't work around her. She's the vice president. And also, he's just openly discussing the idea of Kamala Harris being at the top of the ticket. This is not something any sitting Democrat, especially someone with the power that Clyburn has within the party, would be doing if this wasn't a serious possibility in their mind. So, again, this goes to, I think, Kamala Harris being the likely candidate if Biden were to drop out. And this also goes to the idea that there is some real weight behind the idea of Biden not being the candidate. Now, let me share this from Jamie Raskin as well. Here is another sitting Democrat who also openly discussed this idea.
We are the party of democracy and freedom right now, and everybody is asking one question within the Democratic Party. And I know that's true of President Biden and Vice President Harris and my friend Lloyd Doggett and everybody in the House and the Senate and all of the members of the Democratic Party, the tens of millions of people across the country.
Clyburn is a traitor to democracy, brokering deals so that others would drop out for Biden to defeat Bernie. Yep. Someone stole my username. Hello, howdy.
Which is, how do we defeat Donald Trump? And how are we going to defeat the threat of authoritarianism and keep the progress of democracy and freedom moving forward in the country? And we are not operating like an authoritarian religious cult the way that the Republican Party operates now. There will be lots of discussion and lots of people weighing in. And I know this is a moving target. It's got to happen quickly. But I can guarantee you, Chris Hayes, there will be massive unity and focus on that task when we get to the end of this process. And it's happening very quickly, I think.
When we get to the end of this process, and it's happening very quickly, I think, there is a process that is going on. There are discussions that are going on. And look, there's already been reports about these discussions happening. But again, when it's acknowledged publicly by a sitting Democratic congressperson, it holds a lot more weight. After the debate, even when these discussions were happening on, in the media, including Democratic operatives like Claire McCaskill, a surrogate for Joe Biden, even openly discussing the idea that Biden may not be cut out for this. At that time, it still seemed fanciful, the idea that Joe Biden would actually step aside and someone else would lead the ticket. Now I am leaning almost in a greater than 50% chance of this actually happening.
I mean, it's possible. It's really up to Biden, essentially. Real democracy, not the sold out ish of the DNC, or about the DNC debt, and gave her the nomination instead of Bernie. Yeah, I don't know like the full ins and outs of the shenanigans, but yeah, I don't disagree that shenanigans happened. Shenanigans happened within that primary.
I still find it hard to believe because good things don't normally happen, but this might actually happen. And I think, again, to avoid a Trump presidency, I think you need someone else at the top there. You need to get people who the support that Joe Biden has lost especially over the past year. You need to kind of push that out of people's minds and bring someone else there to represent the party. And this may actually be happening. Another clip here. J.B. Pritzker,
so like this only makes the case to keep putting more public pressure. If you get a survey, fill it out. Polls, all of that. Continue to post everything and anything to continue to make that point more and more clear. Seems like the only way.
Who has often been floated as potentially a replacement for Biden or a future Democratic candidate for president. Here are his thoughts on CNN.
It doesn't look that way in polling. I mean, 3/4 of voters, U.S. voters,
6
in a new CNN poll say the Democratic Party
we're getting close, folks.
have a better shot holding the presidency in 2024 with someone other than President Biden at the top of the ticket. I mean, do you agree with that, or are the voters wrong?
Well, I think that's why President Biden needs to communicate more. We haven't heard a lot from him since the debate, and that's why the polls look as they do. I think that when you come off a bad debate, you need to remind people why you're the right guy to elect. And I know that Joe Biden will do that over the next couple of weeks. At least I expect him to. Or he'll make a different decision. And I think that's, again...
Yeah, it's not just like bad debate performance. You know what I mean?
This is a healthy conversation for us all to be having, and I think that the president needs to communicate to everybody, once again, why he's the right guy.
All right, the quote to hang on to there is, or he'll make a different decision. Again, opening up the door to this real possibility that Biden may not be the candidate. I'm going to end on this, which may be the biggest indication. This is a report from the Washington Post.
Unprecedented.
Former President Barack Obama has privately told allies who have reached out to him that President Biden's already tough path to re-election grew more challenging after his shaky debate performance on Thursday, a harsher assessment of the presidential race than his public comments.
Man, President Obama, you got to make the call, man. I've been posting on my Facebook for months asking people to call the White House and demand that Joe step aside long before the debate.
Obama holds, obviously, a lot of weight.
Yeah, progressives in general have been saying this for months, but we'll take what we can get.
Over the Democratic Party still. When Obama is no longer confident in your ability to win, this is going to mean a lot. This can mean a lot.
I hope so.
Especially if Obama actually talks to Biden and maybe not tells him, but suggests it's time to step aside. So the next week is really going to be the biggest indicator. How Biden, as I discussed in that report, how Biden performs in the interview, how he performs on the campaign trail at those two appearances. And then the decision, I think, at some point, it's got to come soon after that. It has to happen soon because we are into July.
Yeah.
Something's going to happen. And we're getting to the end of it. Whether he's going to drop out or not, I think we'll know within the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think so. So this is huge. The fact that Biden is even mulling that thought over, because I was going to go over this New York Times article, but this video kind of serves the purpose of summarizing what the TLDR is. The fact that he even is considering it, I think is huge, and we'll know definitely soon. I suspect. All right, folks, we got two things to go through. I don't care if he's a wizard on the campaign trail. We've seen him in action. There have been 15 different incidents like this, like the debate, not an isolated incident. I agree with you, 100%. I agree with that. A conservative leading the pro-Trump Project 2025 suggests there'll be a new American revolution. So back to that. Remember how I was like, I understand the perspective of why you might feel that way. The leader of the conservative think tank, Footlong, the conservative of the think tank orchestrating plans for massive overhaul of the federal government in the event of a Republican presidential win, said the country is in the midst of a second American revolution that would be bloodless, quote, if the left allows it to be. That's a threat. That's threat. That's definitely a threat. Need to use some clothes to close clips to stretch the skin flat on Biden's hand and write Obama, drop the hell out, please. Thank you. Reminder. Right, exactly, the Raven. Yeah, this is very, like, this isn't even implicit. This is very explicit. Isn't a bloodless revolution just a coup? Not necessarily, but it's the implicit threat, like, oh, well, you know, we're not saying, we're just saying that if you don't let us do what we want, we're just gonna kill you. Coups can be bloody. That's true. Yeah, Christian Taliban. So, I think this is all but explicit. Heritage Foundation President Kevin Roberts made these comments on Steve Bannon's War Room podcast, of course, adding that Republicans are in the process of taking this country back. Democrats are apoplectic right now because the right is winning. Roberts told the former Rep. Dave Brat, one of the podcast's guest hosts, as Bannon is serving his 4-month prison term. And so I come full circle on the response, and I just want to encourage you with some substance that we are in the process of the second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be. Insurrection, I think, is the only one that has an unbloody optional definition. That's technically true, because insurrection, insurrection by definition is violent, but I guess violence doesn't always mean that blood is spilled. I don't know. I think we're splitting hairs. Roberts' remarks shed light on how a group that promises to have significant influence over a possible second term for former President Trump is thinking about this moment in American politics. The Heritage Foundation is spearheading this Project 2025, a sweeping roadmap for a new GOP administration that includes plans for dismantling aspects of the federal government and ousting thousands of civil servants in favor of Trump loyalists who will carry out the hard right agenda without complaint. Its call for revolution and vague reference to violence also unnerves some Democrats who interpret it as threatening. Oh, it is 100% a threat. It is. It's not, and also I would say it's not vague. It's pretty explicit, right? Quote, "This is chilling," said former Democratic presidential candidate Marianne Williamson, wrote on Twitter. "The idea of a second American revolution is to undo the first one." James Singer, a spokesperson for President Biden's re-election campaign, pointed to this week's 4th of July holiday in an emailed statement. 248 years ago, tomorrow America declared independence from the tyrannical king, and now Donald Trump and his allies want to make him one at our expense. Singer said, adding that Trump and his allies are dreaming of a violent revolution to destroy the very idea of America. So I think the important part was said already. This is serious, folks. The threat that these people pose is serious, and violence for them. Yeah, we're all mispronouncing traitors. They are going to jail their opponents and scouts, and SCOTUS has specifically paved the way for fascism. It's a threat and gives reasonable option to Biden to use the assassination clause he was recently given for the justice approved of stealing the election in 2000. That's true. You're not wrong. So anyways, the point being is that, yes, these people believe that violence is not off the table. Yeah, and that is deeply, deeply disturbing, and we cannot lose sight of that. We cannot lose sight of that. All right, folks, we got one more. Abortion measures could be on Arizona and Nebraska ballots after organizers submit the signatures. Folks, pay attention if you are in Arizona and Nebraska. I believe yesterday or the stream before, we talked about the other state that's having a ballot initiative. That is having a ballot initiative to protect reproductive rights. These are two more states. They'll be 100 times more violent if they win. Well, I don't discount that. Organizers in Arizona, yes, be careful and do research. In Nebraska said Wednesday that they turned in far more signatures to required to get on the ballot just before voters in November. Nebraska, there'd be two competing questions. One, like the Arizona proposal, would add a right to abortion to the state constitution. The other would enshrine Nebraska's current ban on the abortion after 12 weeks of pregnancy. Pay attention, folks. If you're in Nebraska or know somebody in Nebraska, there are two competing questions. Okay, so read carefully because there's one that is going to protect reproductive rights and there's one that's going to enshrine the current ban that's there. So pay attention, folks, but also please go and vote for these ballot initiatives in Nebraska and Arizona. In both states, it's now to election officials to certify the signatures before they are added to the ballot. All right, so I think that's basically what we need to go over. So, yes, pay attention, folks. Nebraska, Nebraska, and Arizona. And I think yesterday we talked about another one, another state. For these ballot initiatives, they're super important. Super, super important. They're allowed to trick voters by using obscure language. It's disgusting. Yep, that's what I'm saying. Please pay attention because specifically in Nebraska, there are two competing ones. So pay attention to make sure that before you go to the polls, before you Pokemon go to the polls to read both of them, because one is to keep that to keep the abortion ban, and one is to enshrine reproductive rights. So just make sure that you read the ballot initiatives. They've done that in Massachusetts a few times. They've done that. They did that in Florida for several ballot initiatives throughout the years. That's for sure. All right, folks, I got to get going. It's just past 6 o'clock. It is time, folks. I got to do a couple things and head out to the airport. Thank you all for stopping by. I appreciate it. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to hit the follow button. Join the Discord. We're going to have a free movie screening if you just want to pop in, hang out, put it in the background. It doesn't matter. You're all welcome. Take care and have fun tomorrow. Thank you. I appreciate you stopping by, Avon. Thank you all for the support of the channel. You guys are what makes this channel go. Thank you. Please consider the many different ways of supporting the channel. Keep liking the stream, follow, subscribe on the YouTube, do the awesome stuff. Consider checking out the merch store. Thank you, Michael Hassler. Thank you, Heat, for modding the chat. GG indeed. Thank you all. I appreciate it. We'll be back. We'll be back on Monday. Monday. Thank you all. Stop by the Discord, folks. All right, do it. I appreciate it. But if they would not allow us to sell in the voting booth and say, fill in the dot to abortion bans and write in Angus hibiscus to allow abortion. All right, folks. Gotta go. Gotta run. Thank you all. I appreciate it. As always, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I love you all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Monday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you all. See you. Hang tight, folks. We're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bye-bye.